Hi, you guys.
Hey, good afternoon. How are
What's
you?
up?
Good. How are you?
Good. Doing excellent. It was a crazy day here. Kept having things added
Was it
in,
really
but
15 teeth that you pulled right now?
yeah, I got 15 out, and I got 14 out in like 20 minutes, and then number one, I don't have a CT at
Okay.
this office. I have a PAN and PAs, and it was one of those sneaky ones that had a palatal root that was like crazy divergent. And I just didn't know. So the whole time I'm thinking I got this
Yeah,
conical
what
tooth
is
and I'm
going on?
elevating and I'm like, I'm turning to my assistant. I'm like, what is going on here? And then finally it breaks and I get this buccal root
Oh,
out and I'm looking in there and I'm like, okay, there was the
okay.
troublemaker. And so then I fished the palatal one out. But yeah, it was one of those that I was the last tooth. I thought it would be the easiest one.
Oh,
I
look.
kind of saved it for the end, cleared the slate, and then yeah, just got stuffed there for like 30 minutes and crown seat next door. So got that
I'm
on
very
her and
impressed.
we're all
Yeah.
squared
You
up.
do.
What have you
Like,
been up
well,
to?
I was about to wear a jersey for you guys today too, but I'm glad I
That's funny.
didn't since you're not
Yeah.
wearing jersey.
I was thinking about that. I was like, gosh, like, because Tony and I talk about it, and I'm like, do people actually listen to our stuff and notice that I'm always in a basketball jersey? I bet you're talking to some dentists and saying things that are super basic about systems. Because I was looking at your content, just trying to get an idea of like what you're about. And like some of your embezzlement stuff where you're talking about the credit card terminals. And I was like, I bet you think that's so basic. Like, duh, obviously you have the little reader, check the. And I'm like, I wouldn't even have thought about that an assistant is bringing her own reader, right? And I bet you're typing that I bet everyone knows this and like all that stuff. I had no idea.
Yeah,
Like
now
that
it's
stuff
Yeah.
so
is
easy because you
gold.
can bring like these like mini readers. Before it was a lot more complicated.
So the patients think that they're paying the office
Yeah.
and it's going to somebody's Zelle or something.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
insane to me.
that
And
is.
also, there's not just
Yeah.
that. Like, let's say they're not savvy enough to bring their own credit card terminal in. They will take your existing terminal and process refunds on their own credit card.
Oh, so like on a separate
Yeah,
day.
just like
So
a
like you'll see
normal
the money hit the
day, like
account.
today, you have
Yeah.
So
the
like
CF
on a
number,
reader, when you
pull up
on
your
a
own
reader
account.
to process a refund, you need to like put in, I'm assuming, exit address. Like, hey, we're taking money from this card and no? Like, how does that work? Because I don't know
It's
anything about that.
literally any credit card, terminal, swipe, refund, any amount. And the thing that dentists could do that many don't do is you can create a PIN specific to just refunds. The problem
For
is, when
refunds.
you own a practice, as you've seen all these practice owners, everyone's so busy, they end up trusting,
Mhm.
a few people in the front. And
Yep.
they're like, okay, just go do it. Here's the PIN. Here's my
Here's my
PIN.
pen.
And then they
Yeah.
never run the report. So what you should be doing is on a monthly basis, you have to log in to the credit card terminal like portal, run a report
Yep.
on your refunds, and then question the staff. Like, wait, what's this? Like, which patient did this? And the thing is, it doesn't have patient names on it, right? There's transaction number.
It
It's
just
just
has the
like, and
credit
doesn't even
card.
necessarily have the entire credit card number. So it's tough. But you have to monitor it. And I think the best way to do all of this is, besides running the reports, is you then go and you ask staff at the offices and you say, oh, look, I saw this refund. Like, which patient did this apply to? So then they know that you know.
You're
Yeah.
on it. Yeah. 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 It's like the bike lock. It kind of lets everybody know, hey, don't steal my bike, even though it'd be
Yeah.
easy to clip
You've
with
got
a
eyes
pair of
on it.
wire cutters. This is awesome. So when you've found people or worked with people that have been embezzled from, no matter how it was worked through, how do you broach that topic? I can't imagine how emotional that's got to be to receive that news that you're being embezzled from. So as the person that figured it out, I could see them like jumping on you,
I
like
know. So
that's not
yes.
happening.
No, a lot of my clients, my coaching clients that have come on board, a lot of them have a feeling something is going on. So they've seen certain
Okay.
red flags
Okay.
that they've ignored for a while, but they don't even really know where to start.
Mhm.
So they say, hey, can we like start? Like, what is your approach? So my approach has been to start with just getting like a diagnostic like report of like their systems and
Mhm.
operations. So I don't necessarily even need to go to the office. I just need access to their software. So I log in, I do some
Okay.
digging, I pull some reports, and from there I get a sense of what's going on and what I need to like look into further.
Mhm.
And then a lot of it isn't necessarily that I'm looking for embezzlement, right? Like I'm just looking to improve their
Mhm.
systems, like increase their profit, make
Yep.
their lives easier, like less stressed out. And so a byproduct of all that is perhaps finding some cases of embezzlement. And
cash walking away.
Unfortunately, you can embezzle like a million, not a million, maybe like hundreds of different ways within a dental office. And there's so many different ways. So
Hmm.
you really have to know what you're looking for, but you just have to be on top of it as much as you can. So, but breaking the news to them, no, it's not that hard. I mean, listen, it's business. Nothing is
Yeah.
personal. No one in the office should be your best friend. You should, of course, expect everyone to have honesty and integrity and all of that. But at the end of the day, it
Hmm.
happens more often than not. I had just posted recently about the Hermes heir. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Hmm.
He lost.
What is, tell us your Instagram before, where
Oh,
are you
okay.
posting so everyone
So
can
it's
find you?
dental growth coach. So he's a fifth generation heir. And I feel like if he was like a first generation or second generation, this never would have happened, right? Or had he earned it all himself, it wouldn't have
Hmm.
happened. Because he's a fifth
Yeah,
generation,
they're on it.
right? He's like, okay, let me just let somebody else manage it since it was just all handed to him. And the person that he chose was his
Hmm.
friend and a wealth manager. And he blew all $15 billion. And it's not that he just spent it. He basically took rights from him. He had everything, documents signed. He had handed over full control to the wealth manager. And the wealth manager spent and purchased and took ownership of his properties and whatnot. And he did it. And I bet he ignored a lot of red flags, as dentists tend to do. We turn a blind eye because we're
Hmm.
like, oh, our office manager is amazing. She does everything for the past 12 years. I can't like survive without
Hmm.
this one person. And the reality is, you'll be
Yep.
fine. You might even be better off.
Yeah.
So it's okay. There's not just
Yeah.
one person in the entire like state or city that you're in that can do all the things to like operate a practice.
I feel that deeply. Now, Alex and I, as you know, have never been owners, but when I've worked at private practices, like when an office man, and she was embezzling definitely from this practice. And I could tell the owner didn't want to sniff it out or knew, but didn't want everyone else to figure it out. I don't know, but it was like just this super weird feeling, but I totally can feel that where like there's this sensation it was happening. No one talked about it.
It happens
Yeah.
more
And they were
often
like
than
best
not.
friends.
I know it happens. It happens really often. And a lot of my coaching clients are so dependent on 1 to 2 people within the practice. And they
Hmm.
just can't imagine a life where this person doesn't show up one day. They're like, what do I do? Like, what's going to happen? And I'm like, you're completely fine. Let's talk about all the things they do. And I'll come up with the systems, how other people can do these things. And they'll probably do it. I'm not going to say better, but sometimes better.
They can step
Mhm.
up.
You
Are you
you
familiar with Mark Costas?
I think
The
recently I've
Dr. Mark
seen him
Costas?
like a little bit on Instagram, but I don't
Okay.
know. I know he's a dentist and
It
coach.
He just had a video. He kind of does
Okay.
similar thing, kind of counseling of business owners. And his post today was basically he had 4 practices and he thought it was all gravy. He was rolling in cash. He had like an office manager at each clinic and they all just for whatever reason ended up quitting in like a 1 year window. And he like cash flow dried up, everything went to heck. And he realized that it wasn't the person, but that person had all the systems here and nothing was on paper. So it was basically, he realized it's not always the person. You got to download the systems that they do and basically just figure out how you're going to pass that down to the next one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing with business operations for a dental practice, right? It's like, it seems like it's the only career or only field where you're operating a multi-million-dollar practice and you're handing the business operations to someone who at most has a high school education, perhaps taken some AA courses.
Hmm.
And I'm not trying to diminish
Yep.
their expertise in
The
the
role.
field or any of that. But the reality is this is a business and you have to treat it as
Hmm.
such. You have to be in control of the business operations. You have to come up and create all of the systems and the best systems that you possibly can. And if you've no idea, then you can hire a coach like myself. And then from
Hmm.
there, you now can train each staff member to do things the way you believe are the best way versus you go and you
Hmm.
focus on the clinical side and then you just hope that the staff member is going to handle the business operations correctly. And it's not their fault. They were only trained by
No.
another person like themselves who were not taught by someone who is like a true CEO or a true master of the business operations of a dental practice. So they are doing their best. So like I actually don't fault any office managers or team members when I do find out like their AR reports are outrageous or they're just posting adjustments in like such an awkward way that doesn't make sense. Like whatever mistakes they make, I'm like, it's
Mhm.
okay. It's not your fault. Like it's okay. We're just gonna fix it.
That's
Everything
the
can,
past.
yeah, that's the past. We can fix
Yep.
it. Let's moving forward. Let's do the following.
Yep.
But they don't know any better because most dentists don't know. They haven't taken the time or had the time or had like, we don't learn this in dental school, right? Like how much of the business ops do we learn
No.
within those 4 years? No.
And you don't learn it in high school, undergrad. Nowhere can you learn it unless you've owned a
Or
business,
you
right?
like, unless you have your
So it's
MBA, with your DDS or
or
DMD,
that, yeah.
there's really no other hope. So my goal as a coach is just that. Most dentists, it's such a solitary, like isolated career, right? Like you're sitting in your office and yes, you've got like this whole team of staff there with you, but you're the leader and you're in charge. So it's a different set of pressures that are put on you than on them.
Mhm.
And so they can't really relate to where you're at, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So at the same time, like knowing all of this, that it's such a solitary like career, I was hoping to, by coaching, that I'm no longer going to be gatekeeping everything I've learned these past 17 years, right? So I've opened
Mhm.
16 practices throughout 17 years, and they're GP practices,
Mhm.
endo, perio and implant centers, oral medicine, and I had opened a mobile dental clinic too. So it's like a nice assortment
Nice.
of practices. And I learned
Yeah.
so much from each one, like just throughout, even just up until last year, like just continuously learning so much, right? But the thing
Mhm.
is, dentists, we usually complain to our colleagues, right? We don't necessarily share the wins or, oh my gosh, this was the problem and I discovered this and this is how we should do these systems. Like you don't even know if anyone really wants to hear that.
Completely agree with this. Yeah, there's no it's like it's almost like I don't think it's that we don't want other people to have success, but it's almost like you found the carrot that was the trick, so you're gonna keep it to yourself.
It
I
almost
don't
feels
know.
like it
Like
does. I mean, like me and Tony and I are kind of going through this where we're trying to help people just basic budgeting. I mean, I bet you're surprised the amount of dentists that don't have systems. I talk to dentists. I'm like, what are you doing for your budget? And they're like, oh, I don't know. The money just comes in. I've got enough. And like, and we're like, we're leaving so much on the table. Right.
yeah.
But when we start getting into the nitty gritty, they're like, "Oh, I don't want to tell you how much I make." Like it's like their production and their income is like part of them. We have this like the doctor ego. I
Mhm.
try and leave mine at the door every day, but like that number at the end of the day is like a badge of pride that we wear. And I think it's awful, to be honest, because I don't care
Mhm.
how much you make, Nikki, Tony. I care even less how much you make, right? Like I care about me and helping others because if you make more, I don't make less, right? Like why wouldn't
Yeah.
I want to make more? And I'm kind of going through this. So I've been a dentist for 7 months, 6, 7 months, and
Oh,
I am at the like this is a corporation's corporation. Like
okay.
it's real scummy and I hate it. But the one thing I thought I'd do when I joined there is learn the background, learn the systems, all the things that you are an expert in, Nikki. But I feel so over my head. I spend my weekends. I have an Excel sheet of all of because inventory has been. You'd think they have this stuff ironed out. We ran out of heavy body the other day, right? So like I made a Google sheet with everything on an order system, like what I call it, the name in the system, a link, price per unit. And I'm like, here to the office manager, like, let's try and get inventory. No change. I spent a weekend
Mhm.
trying to type out like standard operating procedures from the patient walking in through the door, like stuff that I bet you've ironed out. And I'm not saying I'm good at it. What I want to ask you, I feel so over my head and I feel like the team isn't taking what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, they're not
How
receptive.
would how would you suggest someone like me, very young in their careers, but with that ambition, just start?
Well, okay. So unfortunately, what I've learned in these dental offices is there's a hierarchy, right? And I actually had
Yes.
one of my
Yes.
associates, like insist that I explain what the hierarchy was at a practice. I always look at the associates as partners, right? You're getting a percentage. You're going to get 35% of what a production or your collection. You are technically a partner without having to had invest in the practice. So that's how I approach it. But I believe the owner dentist has to speak with their team members prior to you coming on board or
Yeah.
once you're even on board and say, look, we've got Dr. Alex here. Dr. Alex's intentions is not just to take care of the patients, but he's trying to improve the practice. And by improving the practice, he's thereby making your lives easier and making the patients have a better experience overall. And so then the practice will continue to grow. So they have to give that power to you. If they haven't handed that power to you in front of the team members, then I don't think the team will be as receptive to any of your ideas. They are looking at it more like, this is more work. What do I need to do this for? Like inventory, like it's been fine, like they don't want to do
Exactly.
any of this stuff unless it comes from like the top and they have passed it on to you.
I have like tried to tell that to so many new grads. They'll message me and they'll be like, I've talked to the office manager. I've talked to my assistant 9 times about this problem. And it just falls back to the same old rigmarole. And a lot of times it's a private practice. Sometimes it's a DSO. But what I always tell them is if the hierarchy, so the person on top isn't the one that's kind of like dispersing that, of course it's not going to take on. So in a private practice, you got to get the owning doc on your side. He or she has got to be the one that disperses that info or says to the staff, when Dr. Alex says this is what we're doing, that's what we're doing. That's the next step.
No, absolutely.
And I was going to say, I think you mostly work with dentists that own, so private practices. In my 2 DSOs I've worked at compared to the 2 private offices I've worked at, the DSOs are so much more of a mess than the private practices. So I was going to get your opinion. Do you think that I would have thought a service organization would have figured some of
You
these things out, like
assume,
Alex was
right?
kind of getting at? It's
No, every
worse.
time you're
It's
with like a
worse.
corporation, any type of corporation where you hear like, I don't know, there's like some sort of something with AT&T going on. You're like, AT&T, there was like an issue. What are you talking about? Like, I'm trying to run like a
Yeah.
little dental practice here and that everyone's expecting
Yeah.
everything to be perfect. And it's like, so I don't know because I haven't personally worked at a DSO.
Okay.
So basically my background.
We need you. I could tell you
Yeah.
that. We need you
I
bad.
love Listen, the
Yeah.
thing is it's not rocket science. It's actually really simple. And so I've explained this to like my coaching clients. I said, look, you didn't have the time to learn this because as soon as you graduate from dental school, we have so much debt, right? That we just cannot like we
Mhm.
don't see the value necessarily in like stopping to go learn from the front desk like how do they do what they do. And then you don't really even know if they're doing it correctly
Yep.
to begin with, right? So we don't have that
Mhm.
time. But having said all of that, I think there should be a lot of value in learning all of this as an associate. And I love that, like you,
Mhm.
Alex, like you're taking the time to try to learn all of that and like doing all these new like standardized procedures and whatnot. So I hope the practice becomes more receptive. But in a DSO, I can imagine that it could be more challenging to try to get like the top to come and support your position on how to improve the practice.
I mean, honestly, the blessed thing is that my regional manager is a buffoon and she doesn't know anything and she's like never around. So I'm
Well,
the
she
sole.
worked at a massage parlor.
Yeah.
She never worked in dental. Yeah.
I'm the sole doc, right? I just got a new office manager. He's great, but I'm feeling overwhelmed with all the little parts I'm trying to improve. Like last week, I had like a tough clinical week just in terms of like organization and system. So I was like, I know there are a million things, but for the next week, I'm just gonna focus on trying to iron out. I'm gonna take pictures of setups and make a binder and all that. If you were to get a brand new coaching client, again, someone like me, I want to start a practice. What is the first thing you think I should learn and try to improve, whether it's DSO or
Mm.
whatever, like the number one key skill
For
that,
you to
for
learn,
me to learn?
right? Okay, so
Like
Mhm.
how to run and start a dental practice, like essentially how to become Dr. Nikki.
Okay, so if you were my coaching client and you said, "Look, I'm like sick of being an associate and I want to open my practice," we'd have to talk about whether you're going to open from scratch or you want to buy an existing practice. So first, it's figuring that out, and then second, you have to know what the end goal is. Like, do you want to do what I did, which is open multiple practice, step away from the clinic side 100%? So that you can then just manage the businesses? Or are you like, no, look, I want to practice about 2, 3 days a week and just have this one practice and that's it? Or I want to practice a few days, but open multiple practices and have them be associate runner one. So like you sort of need to know what your goal is because depending on what you want to do, do clinic or not, then I would suggest looking at the demographics of like the location. It's so important. If you're going to be practicing at this practice that you're going to be opening or buying, well, you don't want to drive too far, right? But then the demographics might not be good
Mhm.
for bringing on an associate at that location. So you really need to know your end goal. And then from there, like right now, I'm coaching a few dentists who are associates who are really eager to buy practices. So what we do is, so we've kind of figured out that they're going to buy instead of open from scratch. It just made a lot more sense for them.
Mhm.
And so now that they're buying, at first they wanted something really close to their home, but then the more that we were digging, we realized that you don't intend on practicing here full time or even part time in the long run. So it might make more financial sense to drive further now and have a better demographic and the practice do a
Yeah.
lot better, a lot quicker. And then you can focus on the second practice and third and whatnot. So they are bringing me existing practices that are for sale, and then we'll go through it. We'll spend like an hour or two. We'll go through pros and cons, and anything that's good, then they're pursuing it. And then I kind of tell them what the red flags are, and then so they can go back and find better practices.
I
Another great point.
That's actually, I feel like the people selling practices are in a different generation than us. So we're on the internet, we'll call it, right? And they're on the yellow pages. So I was actually thinking of like, because I think part of the trouble is that the corporations are reaching these practices before the younger associates are. And also correct me if I'm wrong. That's something that like I've reached out to like dental real estate companies, to banker, Bank of America, because I'm trying to figure out what is the best way to find them. How have you found the best way to reach these practices? Because my biggest problem, because I'm ready to jump ship, I don't know where to find the guy, the old man that's selling.
Okay, got it. Okay, so all of my practices were built up just from scratch, right? So I didn't buy existing. One of them I bought from a classmate. It was his second practice, but there was like no patients there. So it was pretty much a startup. But the rest of them were just a blank slate, like doing the design and build out and all of that. Having said that, now that I'm listing practices and going through it, these brokers, like everything is online, like going through
The
all the different
brokers.
brokers and going on their websites and like
God.
pulling the practices within that area. So it's really important to figure out your area, right? Like where is it that you're looking for and the type of practice that you're looking for, right? So there's
Mhm.
a sweet spot when you're looking for a practice to buy. You obviously don't want some aggressive dentist who's done like, full mouth cases and implants and this, that. You want the dentist who's referring everything out, who's very timid and is there for like 3 days a week. You guys know that, right? Or no?
That is gold. Like I would never think of that. It's
Okay.
like I've talked to a broker, and I mean, there's like a practice. It was like $300,000, looked like a crappy building. Like, but if he's doing everything in house, I wouldn't even think of, oh, you want the guy that's referring everything out. I'm assuming because you mean you're going to be keeping more of it in house. That wasn't even thought in my mind. I'm thinking just like, oh, what are the collections, production, outstanding treatment plans, more intangible things like that. And that is why I recommend Dr. Nikki. Like, if you guys are ready to start your own thing, like, I have learned more in these 35 minutes of recording from you than I have from all the weeks and months of research I've
Wow.
done. And I mean, I think that's incredible. So you were like, you know that already. I'm like, absolutely not. I had no
No,
clue.
and there's so
I
much.
wouldn't
There's
even
so
think
many
of
of
that.
these tidbits that it's like once you know
Mhm.
all of these tidbits, then when you look at these practices for sale, you have like this new lens that you're seeing it all in, and it will bring a lot more clarity. And knowing what you just shared about yourself, how you're doing all these systems ops and like you're trying to like improve this DSO that you're like working at right now that is not really, wanting to be helped. Like you probably
Mhm.
sooner than later should have your own practice because you're going to do amazing. Like it might be
Stop it. Stop it.
like it might be a waste having you just, be an associate for so long when you
Toiling
come.
away.
A lot of associates, actually most associates for the most part, like, this is how a lot of our partnerships and my practices were built. So I have an associate run practice. The associate comes for 1 or 2 years, and we get along so well. Their treatment is great. They're so great with the patients. They're great with the staff. Everything's just going well. They're so good that they don't want to stay my employee. They're like, I'm ready. I want to
Mhm.
like jump ship. I want my own practice. But then they don't know the business ops,
Mhm.
right? They don't know how to do the
Yep.
construction. They don't know how to do the build out. So then that's where I would come in and say, okay, look, and I have another partner and then that partner as well. So together as a team, we would say, look, we'll manage all of the business ops and you can focus on the clinical as much as you'd like. And if you
Mhm.
choose, you can start taking over some of the business ops as you learn it and as you go about it. So
This is amazing.
and I love that model.
It's like training
Yeah, no, no,
wheels.
and I love that model because you've already worked with the person, so you already know what type of person they are, where their standards are, and all of that, and their work ethic, and so from there, you can just keep growing and building.
That's
Learning all the
killer.
business ops. I have a Google Drive with like all these different folders, Chat GPT and we've been going back. We've got a very close relationship. And like, cause I'm trying to think of all the things like you just talked about design, and I had called in two architects just to get a handle of like what goes into designing a dental office. And every time I talk to someone, it makes me realize how much I don't know. You obviously have the years of experience, but you've got to collect that information somehow. So look, I bet when you started your first practice, we all make a lot of mistakes. I bet you're perfect and you never made one. So you have everything written down well the first time. How do you suggest someone like me and Tony, like we want to do our own thing, but it's so overwhelming. How do we just start like learning and taking notes? We have to do it at some
Yeah.
point, you know?
So, okay. So, first is figuring out, do you want to open a practice from scratch? So that requires the design and planning and all of that. Or do you want to buy an existing practice? Now, having done the scratch thing, I'm like, I don't know why I did that. Like, that is so much harder than just buying an existing practice, right?
Mhm.
So, you could find a good practice to buy that has a lot of potential and a lot of room for growth. So, if you choose that route, that's one thing where you might just need to remodel, right? And if the remodeling, it might just be a facelift, or you wait a little while before you do any changes. But if it's from scratch, the design like sense of it, there's a lot that goes into it, right? You have a blank slate. You need to
Mhm.
figure out like the number of ops, how big the waiting room, depending on the type of specialty it is. If it's a pedo office, obviously the waiting room size is very different than an endo practice. So there's all these things you have to take into
Mhm.
account. But for the design, but the thing is not to overwhelm you. There's, these big companies, right? Like you can go to Patterson and Shine and say,
Mhm.
look, this is a blank slate. This is the specialty this practice is going to be. What do you recommend? They'll give you a recommendation. You can compare it, the two of them together. And then from there, it's so nice having more eyes. Even if you're remodeling your home, like
Mhm.
I always love showing plans to multiple people because your eyes see one thing and another person is like, wait, you also need outlets here. You need this. So there's so much to it, but it's at the same time, like you don't need to know all of it to start. At the end of the day, you're going to do
Mhm.
the electrical, you're going to do the wiring, you're going to put your dental chair, and it's going to be good enough. Nothing it will ever be perfect. Don't strive for perfection.
Mhm.
It's going to be good enough. You're going to make it successful. And then if you so choose, you can move on to the second practice, right? And the second practice, if you're doing a full build
Mhm.
out, will be even better than the first. But the first is still going to be great, because you have
Mhm.
like, there's so many resources out there, right? Like I would love to look at plans and, give my input. And at the same time, I know companies like Patterson and Shine love that because they want you to come and buy all of the equipment from them, the supplies from them, right? So it's an
Mhm.
incentive. They want you to do
That's what I've
the
heard.
the cabinets. Like for example, just doing the cabinets, like I've never purchased dental cabinets, we custom make cabinets with a cabinet maker.
We got the custom
Oh,
cabinets
there you go.
here,
You
and
got
I
the
think he spent
OG
40 grand
cabinets.
on them. Yeah, this guy, he's 80, still practices, but he is incredibly proud of our
No, I mean, if
cabinets.
they've
And he
lasted,
brings them up to patients. Oh yeah, they're solid wood. They're oak. They're solid. But
right?
yeah, he bought them 40 years ago,
They're
and they were
better
still
than
like
what
40
you would
grand
buy
or
right now.
something.
Like today, it's like MDF. It's just like terrible.
Oh
Yeah. My
yeah.
parents are immigrants from the Soviet Union, and we have like pots and pans that were made in like the 40s that still last. And then,
Wow.
you buy stuff now and it's just like, yeah. So
Amazing. But going back to business ops. So, okay, so that was either build out or purchase existing practice, right? So now let's say
Mhm.
you are about to like, the practice is about to be yours. Like, what do you do? Like, what business ops do you need to learn? I personally think the A to Z of
Mhm.
the business ops could be taught in a couple weeks, and not even like 9 to 5, a couple of weeks. It's like in the evening, a couple hours every night, and it's like done. Tell me what software you plan on using, or if you don't know, let's figure out which one is going to, suit you best. And then a few hours every night, and it's done. It's really not, that difficult. It just takes some time, and it takes someone who obviously has done it versus someone who learned from another
Mhm.
employee, and that employee was doing it wrong to begin with. So then, but I have to say, one of my goals with business, with this coaching that I've started about, it's been about like 5, 6 weeks at this point, is to come up with a course, like an A to Z business ops course for either new dentists or existing dentists who would really like to hone in on those skills.
I was just
Whenever
gonna
you,
say, it
yeah.
sounds like that's what you need. Yeah.
And just listening to
So
you.
sorry.
Oh, that sounds like a
No
small,
worries.
I'm so sorry.
that sounds like a small dog.
Yeah,
That's
and
like
he's a
that's
little
going to be one of
pudgy.
the dogs that like fits in your hands.
No, he's not that little, but he is a little rough.
Little
Yeah,
Shih
he's
Tzu?
a Shih Tzu, I think. That's
Nice.
what they told us. Oh,
Shih
yeah.
Tzu? We had a Shih Tzu growing up. They're great. Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like,
Yeah, I will
whenever
be
that
taking that
happens,
class.
yeah, I was about to say, Nikki, like, let us
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
We will be your
I'm
first
working on
cohort.
it. I'm
Seriously.
working on it,
Mhm.
and I'm so
Yeah.
Yeah.
excited about it because there's so many people who've approached me. I have one person who he's a finance guy, but he's partnering with a dentist to manage a few offices. He's like, I want to learn everything, the A to Z. I'm like, no problem. It's so easy. Like, I could do that. And then there's, the spouses of the dentist, right? Like, I don't know if you guys are married or not, but
Working
you're
on
working
it.
on it. Okay, good luck. The spouses like love to be involved, but then staff don't necessarily want the spouses to be involved, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it's like, it's really nice to have another team member, like someone like your spouse on your team who knows everything and who can just, be another set of eyes and ears and guidance and come up with even better systems.
So walk us, where are you based out of, by the way?
I'm in Los Angeles.
You have that sort of like confidence, and you've obviously backed it up with results. Like you can kind of tell when someone's faking it, and like we've seen your social media. You've got like 200 followers. I would put a lot of money that in the next 2-3 months, that like it is going to be 10 or 20 times that. At least from what I've learned from the conversation. If you just keep doing, I mean, who am I to say, right? But like, because I haven't accomplished anything close to what you have, but if you just keep doing what you're doing, like I'm serious. You start that course,
Mhm.
I'll be there. Like we'll be talking in a few months. Cause like I've been telling you the whole time, I'm scared to jump ship. Like,
Don't,
I've done all the research, but honestly, the more research I do, the more overwhelming it
you
gets.
guys, I'm so sorry. Let me figure.
No, yeah,
No
it's so
worries.
fine. Tony, I still think about that text that you sent me. You're like, hey, I'm thinking about moving back to Colorado and opening a practice. Would you want to join? And I'm like, shoot, man, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No, I'm always just like, and I'm like the same as you. I'm just like
Why haven't you, like,
kind of worn out of the DSO.
honestly, like, why haven't
We just don't
you?
know where we want to live. We have all the money, we have everything ready. We just don't know if we're going to stay in the valley, so in Scottsdale, or we just miss Colorado so much that it's this. I told Megan we bought a home when we were in residency, and it worked out. We ended up not getting murdered on equity. We were just talking about why I haven't bought a practice, and I was telling Alex that it's basically just been we don't know where we're going to live. My wife, she's a physician, so when residency ended, we knew Albuquerque wasn't it. So we came here to the valley, so in Scottsdale. But the summers blow. Like for 4 or 5 months, it's 110 all day long. My kids can't play outside. Like growing up, I played outside all summer, so I just really want that for my kids. My wife's contract is up next October, so we're doing this like, should we buy a practice here in Arizona? I'll probably do an acquisition. I've thought a lot about doing a startup, and if we moved to an area in Colorado that was rural and it needed an office, then of course we'd go that route. But yeah, it's just been, I don't want to buy, and I guess this would be a good question for you. I am terrified to buy a practice and need to like sell it within 3 years because we figure out it's not a good spot for our family. So I always tell my wife, I think we should buy the practice once we know this is where we'll be for like at least a decade.
Well,
Would you
it
agree with that,
depends.
or am I being crazy.
Depends what your goal is. So if you are
Good
going to
point.
be practicing and you want to be practicing at this practice full time or even part time, then yes, of course, it really
Hmm.
depends on where you ultimately want to live. But if you say, look, I want to build out this practice or like buy out a practice and then bring on associates and have it be an associate run practice that you're managing, then no, I think Arizona could be a really good market where, you were to open or
Buy it, open it, and then just
build
keep
it, and
managing it
then the
wherever we
second you guys
move.
move, no problem, like, you have an associate there. So, I mean, some of my practices are in Texas, right? So half of them are in Texas. I moved out to Texas for 6 months, got the first practice up and running. It was the first month of the 6 months was just to finish construction. It was sort of lagging. They needed someone,
Okay.
like, there to get it done.
To
Yeah,
push it
push it
along.
along, and
Yeah.
it worked. So then from there, the next 5 months were just staffing and until I could find an associate. So staffing was great, hired everyone, taught them everything and, went through some stuff until we got the right fit and then brought the
Hmm.
first associate. And the second I brought the first associate, I left, came back to Los Angeles, and then I would just go back and forth and check on it. And then within a year, opened the second practice nearby. And that was so much easier than the first. It didn't require 5 or 6 months. It required 1 month at that one. So, now that you're in Arizona, if you think it's a good market, and you know the neighborhoods, you know the demographics and everything, then I would
Hmm.
consider.
Just pull the trigger.
I mean, the thing is, the more you do
I
it, the
think you
better off
convinced me.
you
I'm just
are.
sitting here.
Knowing what I
Yeah,
know
I
about you
know.
guys and what I've seen on about like of you on your podcast, you guys are going to be great practice owners and great clinicians at the same time. And the sooner you own your practice, I think the better. And you're going to say, why didn't I do it sooner?
Rip the Band-Aid off type
Yeah.
thing. Just, yeah. You're
I
so
think
right. Yeah.
I think I
Go
would
ahead, Alex.
love to hear, Nikki, if you can, as much as you remember, what was it like for you opening your first practice? All the excitement, all the fear, best parts, worst parts, because I most of it is the fear of the unknown. Like me and Tony were just like, we have no idea what we're the fear of failure, the stupid perfectionism thing that every dental
Hmm.
student thinks is just them, but is actually just like part of the profession. We all want to nail
Hmm.
everything the first time. What was your first time like?
Okay, so let me kind of rewind a little bit. Before I went to dental school, I was an undergrad at UCLA and I went to get my teeth cleaned. And I already knew I wanted to become a dentist. But when I went to get my teeth cleaned, the dentist said, oh, you're pre-dental. We don't have a front desk. We have nobody in the front for 3 weeks. Do you want to come work here? And I said, oh my gosh, I would love to. So I started working at a 2-doctor practice and I was the only front desk. So I was managing this practice while in undergrad. And what was really interesting is the owner doctor said, I don't really know anything that's going on in the front. You have to figure it out yourselves. So obviously this is before
Sounds
Google.
about right.
So this is before your guys' time. So I
Yeah.
don't know what we had back then, like AOL or something. But whatever it was really difficult to like Google and just chat GPT and like figure it out. But it was still actually quite doable, right? So I learned everything. I was making $11 an hour. And to this day, I'm so grateful for that job because in those 2 years, I said to myself, oh, this is what I'm doing. Like 100%. I'm going to open multiple
Hmm.
practices. I don't plan on doing that much dentistry. I'll just do as much as I like. And so because I learned
Hmm.
everything prior to going to dental school, there was no ripping of the Band-Aid. The Band-Aid was off during dental school because I had friends who were like, wait, why don't you specialize? And I was like, no, like, I don't want to specialize. Like, I want to hire the specialists. I
You
don't
I'm
want
gonna own the
special
practices.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
specialized in dental
in
business.
dental business. I know. But like,
Yeah.
I do wish I got
Yeah.
my MBA as well, but that would have been really nice. But I don't think you even need it. Like, at this point, you
No,
don't need it.
you
It just
don't
would have been
learn
more
business,
debt.
you do business.
Yes. And so
Mhm.
basically, because of that background in managing, and I always tell dental students, so I also coach pre-dental people who think they want to become dentists, but are so frightened by the debt load that they are going to have to carry
Mhm.
post-dental school. So when I speak to them and they're like, well, what should I do? I'm like, go work in a dental office. Don't work in the back
Yeah.
office. Like, do a little bit of like the assisting just to make sure you can handle dentistry, right? The clinical side.
Mhm.
But everything else, go do everything on the front end and actually do it. Do the accounts receivable, do like revenue cycle management, do like the appointments and the tracking and this and like do all of those things because once you're in dental school, like you're not going to forget any of that. And then when you're out, you're going to do so much better, and you'll be so much faster at opening an office.
That is, I mean, I feel like I always tell people things that are similar. Like, you got to get out and get your hands wet. You got to learn these things. And then I felt like I wanted to be an associate first to learn my hand skills on patients that weren't going to be my long-term patients. And I feel like this is kind of that with the business side of it, right? You got to learn all of the business, and any little whoopsies, they weren't your patients, or it wasn't necessarily your
Yep.
collections.
No, but it was like,
So
we
you got to
actually made
learn
a
it.
great team, that dentist and I kept in touch with him, and then that was the first practice that I worked at the day I got my dental
Oh,
license. Yeah.
okay.
So it was,
Full
yeah, full
circle.
cir it was wild, like, practicing and seeing patients there when you were, like, on the front end. It was, yeah, it was nice. It was re
And now you're drilling on a
I
patient. That's
know.
cool. You've
Yeah.
had an awesome
No, it
career.
was look, I'm really
I
grateful for
think,
all of it, but at the same time, like, I feel like maybe my Instagram comes off of, like, oh, as though it's so easy and, like, there wasn't any struggles, and, like, in reality, there was a lot of no? Okay,
uh,
good. It's tough. It's not,
no,
like, the easiest field to be in, right? There's a
no,
lot of staff
no, it's not.
management, there's so much, patient management, all the business side, so there's so much to it, but I love it. I love the adrenaline rush, the problem-solving aspects of it, and now I, like, love coaching because I didn't realize how much people don't know. You just assume, like,
hmm
everyone is where you're at. You forget you weren't there
You don't
either.
know what you don't know.
Right? And so
Yeah,
the coaching aspect
yeah.
has been really fun, and it's actually been invigorating for me because I now can, like, talk to people in different stages of their career, from, like, pre-dental to
hmm
associates to dentists who own multiple thriving practices. And, like, that's another thing I'd love to talk about. Like, I also work with these dentists who have really great practices. On paper, the numbers look great. They're not complaining that they're not making enough money, but there's something going on. But yeah, there's something going on. So it requires some digging. I love auditing. So auditing is my jam, right? Like, going in, pulling the reports, digging, like, seeing what's out there. And so
You are a sick human
I
being.
know it's not really fun. And I'm a night
No,
owl,
I'm
so
I'm with
I
you.
and, like, love doing that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, most clinicians, they don't really have time for that. So, like, that's where I come in, and then we look for not just embezzlement, but look for how to improve the system. Like, sometimes they don't, like, most of these
Mhm.
dentists, they don't even have a proper system. It's running. The office is running, but they don't know how it's running, if that makes any sense.
Yep.